hardest part of healing isn't the work, it's the aloneness. We outgrow old identities, we keep our heads down, and somewhere between all those calendar invites and notifications and coping mechanisms, friendship gets complicated. And tonight we are slowing the scroll and listening for what the nervous system already knows. Healing lands deeper in community. Welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living Podcast. I'm your host, Sana, as always. And today I have a very special and beautiful episode, conversation ready for you. My guest, Valerie, she's the founder of Renewed Spirit Adventures, and she's the creator of the Renewed Spirit Sisterhood, which is a space where high achieving women learn to be held, to be heard, to be seen, not just helpful. She's not here to sell a morning routine to all of us listeners. She's here to tell us the truth about burnout, embodiment, and why sisterhood is not a luxury, but a lifeline. And a quick heads up before we dive in. And definitely, Valerie will share the details at the conclusion of this episode. But doors are open, listeners, to Valerie's free Sisterhood Circle membership on 1st October. That is tomorrow. We'll definitely get to the details and you'll definitely get access to those details along with this episode. But before that, let's have this beautiful conversation with our guest, Valerie. Valerie, welcome to the show, and it's really an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Sana. It's an honor for me to be here. I get emotional even with the introductions because the work that we're doing is so important. And so I'm excited to talk to you today about how we can heal through community.
Absolutely, absolutely. Valerie, let's try to understand the real use case of sisterhood. Um, you say that healing should not be done alone. I personally, I mean, if there could be a percentage more than 100%, let's say 500 or 1000%, I personally align with that idea. For me, it's a fact because been there, done that. What specific outcomes have you seen in sisterhood that rarely happen in solo work?
Yeah, absolutely, Sana. And I know that we're so aligned on this. And one of the things that we do in our community is we talk about the science behind these concepts, especially concepts like this that are opposite to what society tells us, especially in high achieving, high performing women. Culture, American culture, global culture tells us to fix it ourselves, to handle it in silence, to keep pushing, because if you keep pushing someday, right? Someday things will get better. And culture has it all wrong. That is built on the fact that we are being used for performance. And so some of the things that I'm going to say do involve really the the pushing against societal expectations, the bravery and the strength that it takes to set your path, to not live linearly, and to question things that have been expected of you for your entire life. And so let's fast forward to some of the stories and some of the healing that we've seen through community. I'm going to start with myself.
Wow.
So, a little bit of background. I have always, for my entire life, been in a situation where I've had to prove myself and perform in order to be loved. And my feeling, whether it is, and I'm using air quotes, even though you can't see me, right or wrong, Um, I have always felt inside that my life and what I do and my achievements are for others to garner favor, to be loved. And that creates a conditionality and it
Mhm.
creates in our lives. And I'm sure many of your listeners can resonate with this, but it creates this thing inside of us that says, you alone are not good enough.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
And the truth, the universal truth, is that we are enough just as we are. And there's a blend of science and soul in everything that we do, but understanding that each one of us was put on this earth during this lifetime for a purpose. And what happens during our lives is layers are added on: pain, shame, guilt, conditioning, life experiences, positive experiences, negative experiences, but they all shape us and they create these layers that can get us further and further away from ourselves. And so that's what happened to me. I have a beautiful life, so many things to be thankful for. And I truly believe that in our gratefulness comes the things that we deserve. However, in 2021, after a lifetime of performing, achieving, being involved, being a mother, having a corporate career, multiple businesses, doing all the stuff, my body said, we're done. We're done with you. Stop pushing so much. And if you can't stop yourself, then we're going to stop you through injuries, through illness. And so I was at a point in my life, a rock bottom, where on the outside, everything looked perfect, beautiful, amazing. I have beautiful children, a wonderful career, great community. But on the inside and physically, I had a heart attack and I didn't even know it because I was carrying around pain on my shoulders, in my neck, in my back. And I ended up finding out 2 years later that that's something that had happened. And just I wanted everyone to kinda get that image in their mind of having a heart attack and not even knowing it because you're so disconnected from your body. And I also was at a point where I wasn't able to walk. I wasn't able to get out of bed. I wasn't able to physically move. And all of these things were symptoms and outcomes of the burnout. And so I had started on a healing journey and I had some moments where it's like, I hear you, body. I understand. We're not going to live like this anymore. I have far too much to look forward to be able to live like this. Because if I keep living like this, I'm probably not going to be around very long. And so I started going to Western medical doctors, getting tests, psychology, psychiatry, then also integrated energetics, spiritual work, and really getting down to what is my authentic code? What is my authenticity? Who am I really? And in that experience, just to kind of fast forward a little bit, I committed to myself to be open and vulnerable about my experience, to help me call in others that were aligned so that we could be and create a community together. And so that's a short summary or synopsis, but I will tell you that, just like you said in the opening, our lives can sometimes feel isolated. And especially when we're healing, we feel like we're alone or we're weak because we need help. And when we put ourselves in community, scientifically, we can heal faster. It creates more happiness, more joy. It creates the feeling of belonging and true belonging. And so that's the scientific part. And then the spiritual part, of course, is you have people that you can share your energy with. And so for me, community, seeking out others that aligned in this way was so foundational to where I am today. And I have completed a complete 180. I left my corporate career. I changed my entire family situation, left my marriage of 15 years, live live in a different place. All the things that I needed to do to save myself. Um, and we have hundreds and thousands of stories of women in our communities, women that have gone on our retreats and experiences, people that we talk to every single day that have said when they are in an environment, even with one other person that they can talk to, that they can relate with, it gives more hope. And sometimes we don't even know how impacted we are by the things we do on a day to day basis. I love what you said about stopping the scroll because we can get into these rote routines, right? Where we work, eat, sleep, scroll. Um,
That's
yeah. But I wanted to share, let me, I want to share a story of one of our sisters.
Mhm.
So in April, this
Mhm.
April, we had a beautiful retreat in Costa Rica called Goddess Rising, and it was all about embodying the goddess within you, understanding the goddess archetypes, getting closer and closer to your authenticity, and creating a space from your day to day life where you can reset. And and then at Renewed Spirit Adventures at my company, we focus on integration afterwards. And so we have a sister who came to the retreat because she was working a lot of physical demands for herself, demands of being a mother. And in our first conversation, she's like, I'm fine. I just need to take a little break. Everything's fine. When we were within the week
Mhm.
and understanding more about ourselves, doing the activities, the energetic work, the spiritual work, the workshops, she understood that it was more than taking a rest. It was getting back to the childlike wonder that she
Mhm.
had when she was younger that was lost. And she made a commitment to herself to walk barefoot outside, not only to ground with the earth, but to feel like a child,
Mhm.
to understand the things that were really important to her, and to know that she could be herself and be a mother and be a wife and be have a corporate career. All those things can coexist. And after is where the really beautiful moments were happening. Obviously, we had a great experience in community together at the retreat, but afterwards, she started taking steps to do things that light her up, that create that sense of awe and wonder. And just last month, she sent me pictures and a video of herself solo traveling
Wow.
at one of her favorite places on earth, national park,
Mm.
that she didn't think she was going to be able to do on her own. And she did it. And she climbed mountains and she swam and she did all the things. But just the pure joy and the change in her face and the change in her life was something that makes me so proud. And I think it's a really great story of she didn't have to do a complete 180 like I did. It was taking some steps, and the work is hard, right? But it was taking steps to say, I want to feel wonder again in my life. And then she did it. And now she's also teaching spin classes, a dream that she had had before, just feeling empowered. And so that wouldn't happen without having a community of sisters where you can feel vulnerable, where you can cry, where you can laugh, where you can share, where you can feel supported. to be brave and take the next steps in your healing journey.
Wow. Oh my god, I have so many, so many thoughts in my mind, and let me just try to put everything out. But before that, Valerie, I must say that was certainly such a beautiful summary of your journey. The unfolding of these events, the phases in there. Um, that was really, really. I mean, it's really difficult to summarize such a so many number of years, those seconds, minutes, and hours spent um, with so many feelings in there. That's really, really beautifully done. And I mean, I so much personally resonate with that because um, although we are definitely right now in that modern day and age where when it comes to women, there are conversations around um, building your self, I mean, identity, being independent, being empowered. But then I think what kind of conversations or discussions or maybe resources that I see maybe popularly or conventionally discussed maybe in the mainstream,
Mhm,
they're kind of overshadowing the real struggles in there of women or girls, because personally I can say, Valerie, that um we have so many transitional phases in our lives. So we are we are daughter or sister, then we transition into being wife, mother, then we have work. There also we have to like work maybe twice harder, thrice harder, x
mhm,
times harder just to prove ourselves to be capable enough to be considered valued enough or worthy enough um, to get chosen. And then there's another another aspect that I would like to share, that whenever these conversations come around that I want to discover myself, I want to build my own identity, I want to be independent, um people, they kind of judge you because they feel like you are being selfish.
mhm,
They I think it's kind of the conditioning in there, that especially as a woman, and on top of that, being a caregiver, a mother, a wife, or a daughter, um, you have to be selfless. You have to sacrifice yourself, and then only the systems will be in place. Peace will be there. Everything will go calm. But once you, become this voice of self awakening, then things go completely, against your favor. And then as a woman, you have that feeling of shame, guilt, and
mhm,
fear. So I think that is something that you very, very clearly shared. And then, of course, the burnout. I mean, I've personally also, and I keep on repeating on each and every of these conversations. But I think um, personally, I can say it's the scariest part of burnout is that it silently creeps within you. It consumes you from within, and you do not even realize. And how it manifested within you, Valerie, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I think that was really, really, that must have been very hard. But I really appreciate that you candidly shared, your journey, and of course, um, sisters who have discovered themselves, who have really started embarked upon that journey to know themselves from inside out. I think that's exactly, those are the proof, if anybody would have any skepticism around it. So yeah, that was really, really very, very empowering.
thank you. Yeah, and I this theme of and I couldn't describe it any better than you did, Sana, as far as the structures and the systems that have been created to disempower women. I take a very strong stance on this
Mhm.
because I think it's important. Um, but the whole idea of aligning ourselves with our authenticity and doing things for ourselves to take care, being selfish is so wrong,
Yeah.
but it's so hard to overcome because it comes at us in so many different ways, especially if you're a mother.
Yes.
And this word of sacrifice, I need to sacrifice myself and my wants and my needs for the greater good, is actually the opposite of the truth. And once we understand and realize that the closer to who I am and who I'm meant to be is the stronger that I can set an example for my children, for my family, for my parents, for my brothers and sisters, for my friends. The sooner we realize that, the more power that we have to create ripple effects in this world. And yeah, it's the biggest lie that's being served to us, especially as women. And let me say, we're talking about women because that is our main focus at Renewed Spirit Adventures, because disproportionately women are impacted by burnout. It's a global health crisis. But I want to acknowledge, of course, men's mental health is so important. And so these same themes can resonate with everyone. It's just, I just think it's important to acknowledge that. We're talking about women, but a lot of these same themes, like the stigma behind mental health care for men, the fact that as a man, you're expected to be strong, hold it down. If you show any sort of emotion, it's weakness. All of those things are systemically built to force you to produce more. And so, this conversation is relevant for everyone, but I yeah, this self-sacrifice as a way to make me look like a good person is just so faulty. Because what I will say too is, and like you described, the old model of self-care or the one that we are fed by the media, lots of different sources, right? It's isolating. It's like, go take a bath on your own, go do a face mask, get a massage, right? Um, Spend some time in nature on your own. All those things are beautiful things, but all those things are isolating and they're just part of the journey.
Exactly.
And what we're seeing now is collective systems are breaking down. And when we shift, and as we shift to the new paradigm, it is about individuality, but not isolation. And so, my perspective on this is we bring our individuality into our circles, into our community. We show up authentically as ourselves, and that strengthens the whole. So, our communities become more resilient, our communities become more future ready, our communities become much more sustainable. And so, yeah, if you imagine yourself having a balance between some alone time and some inner work, and then also walking into a circle as your full self, being accepted and received exactly as you are, that's when things change. And there's just all kinds of neuroscience studies that prove this. I mean, there's one from Harvard. It's 85 years. It originally started, but it proves time and time again that strong relationships increase happiness and they increase lifespan, and that we are not meant to be on our own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is something I have personally realized as well. And I so much agree with you, Valerie, that it's not just about one specific gender in here, but it's the collective consciousness, you know. sometimes I have so many beautiful conversations around the the masculine and the feminine energy, and um, if I've realized my mother sacrificing her health, her own identity for her family, then at the same time, I've also realized that my father has also sacrificed his um youth for providing and protecting our family. So I think what we see in media, I mean, it really, really, um, really, kind of overshadows the real struggles in there. So that is something I hugely, hugely resonate with you, Valerie, on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's time for us to look at the truth
Yeah,
and to listen to each other and understand each other. And again, none of this work is easy. It takes deep, deep reflection and it takes effort to find the communities. But there are so many available at our disposal. As we do the work, what happens is we start to call in the people and the places where we belong. So, yeah, it's we cannot, even though we've been asked to ignore science, right, and spirituality, we can't ignore. Like, women co-regulate together through mirror neurons, through storytelling, through rituals. It's been since the beginning of time. So, why we have been forced away from that is it's fascinating to me, but we also understand the purpose behind it, and that is to isolate us so that we self-sacrifice.
definitely. And Valerie, there's definitely time constraint, but I personally wouldn't like to stop this conversation. One thing which I see people talking about is trauma dumping. Um, how do you distinguish healthy vulnerability from trauma dumping, especially in group spaces? Like, are there any guardrails that you set, or any specific framework that you follow?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I think trauma dumping has an innate negative, um, connotation, but what it means, is that I'm saying everything that's negative that's happening in my life, right?
Mhm.
So I don't love the term of it because a lot of times it happens because someone finally feels safe enough to share. So, with guardrails and what we do in our sisterhood circles is I like to have a balance between engineering the conversation and the themes and then also having the free flow of conversation. And so, for any listeners that want to create a group or want to be a part of a group, just a really quick framework for it is people feel more secure when they understand the expectations of what's going to happen in the circle. And so if I'm in a group setting and I'm the leader of that group setting, I'm going to say, okay, today's conversation that we're going to discuss or the question that I have for all of us to reflect on is XYZ. For example, this month in the sisterhood, our October theme is about sacred yes and no, establishing boundaries. And so it's that conversation, and then I lead first. The reason why I do this is because then I can set the tone and the example for the most effective sharing. And it's not that any sharing is right or wrong, but it's about how do we make sure that everyone in the circle's voice is heard? Because that's what happens, right? When we have a situation where, let's say I'm in the circle and I want to just share everything because I finally feel safe. Well, that might create some time constraints. So I just a really good conversation is natural and flowing, but it also has some light guardrails, right? And an example of what the sharing looks like so we can create healthy vulnerability.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think it's okay. It's okay to be negative. It's okay to share our trauma. It's more than okay. Then also understanding that these conversations and these things that are happening in our lives, they can be turning points
Mhm.
and hope.
Mm.
I I meet with especially fellow entrepreneurs
Mhm.
and talk through I do public speaking events and workshops around how your burnout can be a sacred burnout, right? Like
Mhm.
for you, Sana, there's probably so many things that you learned about yourself, your family systems, your relationships, the world at large through your burnout.
Mhm.
And at the time, it sucks. It's horrible, right? You're sick, you're disconnected from your emotions, you hit rock bottom in your life. There is that glimmer of hope that says, if I use this as a turning point in my life to make the changes I need to make, then I can have and be everything that I'm meant to be. And so I think, just to kind of sum up, that's the when we go into circles and group settings, that kind of energy is really important to make sure that everyone shares, that everyone feels heard, that there's a balance between what we've gone through and a vulnerability, and then also that glimmer of hope to say, it's okay for me to share this. And also, it's okay. These things can coexist for me to say, this is my turning point.
Mm. So I think it not only is just about being raw or being or expressing. It's definitely about being responsible with our
Mhm.
story because of course it's a community, um, and it's not only your individual but it's a community purpose in there, a collective purpose in there. So I think that is something we all listeners can definitely we would definitely agree with. I'll definitely agree to that.
Mhm.
uh, and before we wrap up, Valerie, if our listeners they would like to get on ahead go ahead with this journey of healing collectively, and they would also like to connect with you, get access to your resources, what would be the easiest way?
Absolutely. And this is an open and a loving invitation for all listeners to connect with us. The easiest way, the best way is to go to our website. And I'm sure we'll have everything in the show notes, but it's renewedspiritadventures.com. There's a place to connect. It says let's connect, and there's a short form to fill out, and that will trigger uh, a meeting. And so I and my team, we would love to meet with as many people as possible individually. One of the other ways, as you mentioned in the beginning, Sana, is to join our community. And so on October 1st, we are opening the doors for all women to join the Sisterhood Circle for free. Inside the circle, we have weekly journal prompts, live monthly meetings and workshops, all kinds of resources on aligned living, manifestation, nervous system regulation, all different kinds of things that are available. But most importantly, it's a community. And so we have threads and chats where we start different conversations with each other and we're able to help each other and support each other. So I want every single one of the listeners today to join the community, everyone who identifies as a woman, connect with us online, connect with us on social media, and we want you to ask yourself, what's the next step that you need to take to invite more connection into your life? And we would love to be there for you at Renewed Spirit Adventures.
Beautiful. That's beautiful, listeners. I'll have all the links, all the details in the show notes attached with this episode on so just refer to them on whichever platform you listen to your podcast to. And if if today stirred something, let it guide your next step, not toward perfect, but toward people. Healing, it asks for witnesses, and sometimes the bravest, the most courageous move is raising your hand and letting yourself be seen. So, listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Mindful Living. And Valerie, thank you so much for bringing the science of safety and I should say, the soul of sisterhood to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you to all of the listeners once again. And if this conversation served you, share it with one person who might need a soft place to land. See you next time. This is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.